As people, we are impressionable and vulnerable. We are easily influenced by the books we read, media, and the people around us. Those are three major factors as to why stereotypes form. Chimamanda Adichie, a Nigerian author, talks about the dangers of a single story in her TED Talks presentation. Chimamanda was born and raised in Nigeria into a middle-class family. Her family lived comfortably. They were able to provide food for the family every single day, and they even had a help boy. Chimamanda won many awards in secondary school, and she went on to learn medicine and pharmacy at the University of Nigeria. She supposedly started reading at the age of 2, and she grew up reading British and American literature, which she couldn't connect with because she grew up in Nigeria, so they don't have things like ginger beer, and they couldn't talk about things like weather. What she was reading started to reflect in the way she wrote. Her characters would have white skin with blue eyes, and they would eat apples and play in snow. In Nigeria, they don't have snow. They eat mangoes, and their skin is dark. That just goes to show how vulnerable we are in the face of a story. Chimamanda's whole thinking style changed after she read a novel by an African-American novelist, and that just showed her that characters could also be like her. They don't all have to be European, white-skinned, and blue eyes. The Danger of a Single Story by Chimamanda Adichie is a powerful presentation that talks about the harm a single story can cause. The single story can create stereotypes which develop misunderstanding of a person, place, or culture. It's not that these stereotypes are untrue, but it's that they're incomplete. They make one story become the only story. The theme of her TED Talk is that we are all guilty of creating stereotypes by telling the same story over and over again until it becomes the only story that people believe shape a person, place, and or culture. The danger of this is that it leads to misunderstanding, which can also lead to harmful stereotypes. Chimamanda talks about her own experiences and that even she is responsible for creating stereotypes herself. When she went to Mexico, she expected drug dealers and criminals, but when she actually got there, she was shocked that there were families going to have tea and walking in the park laughing. It's not what she expected at all. This made her realize that she had been influenced by the media and the way they covered Mexicans, and that led her to understand only one thing in her mind, that Mexicans could be criminals. Chimamanda's message is that we need to look at different perspectives, and we need to share our own stories and personal experiences so that we can begin to unlearn stereotypes. For example, Chimamanda had a houseboy back in her home in Nigeria, and her mom told her that his family was very poor. Now that gave her kind of a negative perspective on his family, and she thought, his family was completely helpless. So when she went over to his house, she was surprised that they could actually make beautiful things by hand, and that just made her realize that she had a misunderstanding of his family. So if only her mother told her that yes, they were poor, but they were also hardworking, that would help her understand the family situation better, and maybe she wouldn't have pitied them so much, and she wouldn't have felt so much shame. Chimamanda is a very well-spoken speaker, and she draws from her own experiences to bring her presentation to life. She doesn't have to move all around the stage to engage her audience. She uses the power of her stories to capture their attention. She truly reflects on her actual content in the delivery. There's no need for visual aids or sound effects because her stories are easy to visualize. It's one thing to capture an audience, but it's another thing to actually keep them engaged. With the help of her subtle humor and, of course, the powerful stories, Chimamanda is able to grasp the audience's attention throughout her presentation. The conflict of a single story is how misunderstood people, places, and cultures can get, and how it robs them of their dignity. It can also lead to immense consequences, such as death. There's a lot of controversy over the content of stereotypes. It has to do with power. Power makes a definitive story about that one person. The media, in all its forms, has tremendous influential power over people. Amanda addresses the conflict of stereotypes by telling her own personal stories and how she, even without thinking, created stereotypes and viewed people a certain way that stripped them of their dignity. Amanda says the way to fix this issue is to acknowledge the stereotype or single story, talk about ourselves with multiple stories, and keep an open mind. Learn multiple stories about others. So what I learned is that I think I hold the stereotype against Africans and how they're all poor and dark-skinned.
So if you're from Africa, why are you white?
Oh my God, Karen, you can't just ask people why they're white.
So I need to learn different stories and different cultures because Africa's not a country, it's a continent that has many different countries in it and therefore many different cultures in it. So I just need to read about it from real African novelists and talk to Africans in person, learn more about it. Chimamanda's entire presentation revolves around the conflict of stereotypes and that single story. It adds to the overall impact of her presentation, and by using her own experiences, it helps the audience really connect with the issue. For me, I know it made me question whether or not I hold any stereotypes.
I would like to end with this thought, that when we reject the single story, when we realize that there is never a single story about any place, we regain a kind of paradise. Thank you.